Yeah.
Alright, so we're going to handle this in a very narrative manner. Alright. Hello, Byrne.
Hello.
How are you?
Tired.
I can
Very tired.
I can imagine. So we are recording the epilogue for Isaac,
hmm
and the Three Galaxies campaign that we ended a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Sir Isaac Redfield.
Hmm.
I don't think he was ever knighted. Well, maybe
No, he
eventually,
wasn't.
someday.
Maybe,
We don't know.
actually.
Possibly. But no, the epilogue for Isaac, we're gonna kind of narratively go over what happened next after the big boom.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with Byrne about this, and we're gonna handle this a bit more in a narrative. I'll ask him some questions, and we'll kind of just talk about this out of character. I gave all the players a choice: do you want to do this in character, out of character? And Byrne, you feel, and I tend to agree that this, at least your story, could be better told more narratively.
Definitely.
So why don't I ask questions and have you answer, and I'll fill in wherever appropriate.
Mhm.
So, the first couple of years after the boom, what is Isaac's plans? Obviously, his goals are to protect Heart, to uh, fix her arms if possible.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's where we
But
should start first.
yeah, definitely.
So I can tell you that there's about a year or so where Hart teeter-totters back and forth, wanting new arms or not, and you can tell very quickly it's a matter of getting over the trauma of how she got them. It was a very,
Yeah.
very traumatic thing for her to experience, and she.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
For Isaac too.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
But she would wake up next to you with night terrors for the first several months, even
Mm.
after the big boom. But gradually, with your support and having Paw around, which we'll get to, and Tessa, which we'll get to, over the course of about a year, she processes it and gets over it in, for lack of a better word, in the healthy way. She accepts it,
Yeah.
she moves on, and once she's able to do that, she actually decides to keep the arms
Hmm.
because they are, for lack of a better word, they're fantastical. They are a technology that is far beyond what Zebron can produce. Um,
hmm
they are molded into her nervous system so that they feel as if they were extensions of her own body, and they have dozens of little gizmos and gadgets and the ability to um, disassemble into all kinds of things that would help her as a mechanic. So once she's able
hmm
to process it, she decides that she wants to keep the arms.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
it takes about another year after that for the pain to fully go away, and
Mm.
that requires a lot of working with Cyber Six and with you actually, with your telemechanic skills. It's an interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing with Heart and this technology is that it's very difficult for her to sink into it telemechanic wise. There's something about the
Hmm.
technology being attached to her. It's like trying to sink into herself, and that's not something that you can really do well. So a lot of it
Yeah.
relies upon you, and that becomes. Do you remember your training as a techno? When you first started training as a technomancer, you used that ball that was ever more complex.
Yes.
This becomes your version of the ball. Over the course of the next 2 years, you dive deeper and deeper into her arms and are able to integrate it more thoroughly with her nervous system to the point where after about 2 years there is no pain, there is no feedback, there is, as for all intents and purposes, they are her natural arms.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. And in the
I love
meantime,
that.
during those first 2 years, of course, there are methods to mitigate the pain so that if she takes her medicine at irregular intervals, for the most part, her
Yeah.
day-to-day life is fine. She just has bad flare-ups.
hmm
But even those go away after about 2 years.
Great.
So that is skipping ahead a little bit, though. But good to get that out of the way.
hmm
So arms aside, what's in the immediate future for Isaac and Hart?
Well, like I said before, he that entire cyber conclave thing affected him a lot as well. And now that now that he has his mom, his dad, his sister, and Hart, he stops adventuring. Period. He doesn't see any reason to put any of that in jeopardy. Even though it's fun, the risks are way too great, and there have been way too many times where adventuring has led to things like the arms, things like Hart getting so hurt we had to call in a lot of CCW ships
Right. And start a
to
war,
fend off
basically.
Spigorths. Yeah, start a war to save Hart. Like he decides to just stay at home, kind of recoil into himself. That's not the word that I'm trying to find, but it's the first thing that's coming to
Sure,
mind.
fall into himself, sink into himself.
Withdraw.
Withdraw,
Yeah, withdraw.
sure. Maybe spend a lot of
And
time at Finn Mookie's bar. No, I mean not as a
oh,
drunkard, of course. I don't think I can never imagine Isaac doing that, but as a because one thing to note that's going to be interesting with this decision that Isaac's making is it is going to distance him somewhat from the rest of the group because their path
oh yeah,
is in a very different direction. But the
oh
one
yeah.
place that they will still frequent on a regular basis that you can see them would be Finn Mookie's bar.
Probably. He would probably spend a good amount of time there, but he would also spend a good amount of time on the ship. And now that Cathor is leaving, right?
Yes, and I will get to that in a
He
minute.
Yeah. That's skipping ahead a little bit. Cathor is going to leave, and that means that Isaac will have nobody to talk to about techno wizardry other than his dad. So he starts recording himself, recording his thoughts and processes and things like that, just to get it out there.
Okay, so like an audio journal or a video journal.
A video journal, yeah.
Interesting.
Um, that along with going to the bar, hanging out with his friends and stuff like that. Um, over those 2 years, it kind of changes him. He is still like ready for action, but he doesn't want to. You know what I mean?
Sure. He sometimes craves adventure, but he's not willing to risk everything he's gained.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense. I can also go over a little bit in detail over the next 2 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll use this instance to cover, just so everyone knows the rest of the players are here too. So I can use this to cover a lot of the other NPCs over the next 2 years. Um, Cathor, as you mentioned, is going to go on a very long sabbatical. Cathor was already towards the end of his life. He was in his 70s when you found him. And he was stuck on Cyrene for a very long time. I think it was almost 20 years. Stuck
Yeah.
underneath the earth. And ever since you got him, it's just been going 100 miles an hour. Go here, go here, go there, go there. He actually wants to see the galaxy, the universe, because he's 500 years in the future now.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, no, he's more than that. He's like 800 years in the future because I believe Cathor was 500 years before you guys went to Cyrene. 300 years, I think. So he's in the
Yeah,
distant
you're
future.
right.
He wants
Mhm.
to go on a sabbatical to find himself and to explore the universe around him in a less stressful environment. Um, and Levine decides to go with him, as she also needs to do a bit of soul searching. She didn't expect to still be here. She expected to disappear, and she hasn't. And she still, even though her confidence grows each day, she still doesn't know what's going to happen to her. And this is a fate that Cyber 6 and Indigo also kind of face to an extent, is that well, really, Levine to the more to the point, she could still fade away, but as every day goes by, she grows more confident that she's here to stay. But she decides to also join Cathor on a space sabbatical, and they're about the same age, so it fits. They go off on their own. Never really to be heard from again. You get postcards from them every once in a while over the course of Isaac's life. You find that they eventually do settle down on a planet somewhere together and spend
Mm.
some quiet days back on Cyrene, actually, of all places. Um,
Huh.
yeah, so full circle for both of them, actually. Indigo and Cyber Six, they spend the next year or so kind of in a funk. Now, as I noticed, as I said before, the relationship dichotomy between them changed a little bit. Indigo was the commander and Cyber Six was the follower. But to be fair, that doesn't change their relationship all that much. But it's still, Corsairs was their life. And they still can't be Corsairs because even in this timeline, they were kicked out to cover up the incidents. And they spend a year or so in a deep, not depression, but certainly not happiness. They have each other, they have you as friends, and they rely upon that a lot, and they actually grow much closer together, the two of them. But after about a year or so, it turns out that Admiral Hagen had been biding his time to be able to politically push for their exoneration. And it takes a while, but they are able to be allowed back into the Corsairs. Not as Corsairs themselves, per se, not field Corsairs. That would never be allowed or risked, if that makes sense. But they are allowed back in as teachers to teach at the Corsair Academy, which is enough for them. It still allows them to wear the uniform. It still allows them to be part of that family, and they take it willingly and joyfully. Tessa, we'll get to in a bit. Who am I missing here? Oh, Sarah. Sarah got a bit of a short shaft in the last session, I'm sorry to say. Her mother was actually found back on center, back in the past. She was never taken to the future with the vampire master. She was seen as an probably lucky for her, as an unfit servant. Too strong-willed, per se. It got to the point where it's like, I'm gonna have to kill her to get her to serve, and she was just kind of turned loose. And Sarah found her back on center. She actually ends up going back in time to go find her mother, finds her, and maybe Isaac would have helped with this. It would make sense. But either
Yeah,
way,
definitely.
it
What
takes
a good person Isaac is.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what about Lucas?
No, Isaac's got it covered. I don't need to.
I mean, are you sure?
Oh, no, I'm not sure.
Because like these
Don't
parts
give
is
me
to
options.
because these parts are to all of you, really. These are just all the NPCs. I'm just describing what they're doing. You guys can choose to assist or not. She would find her mother wandering in center kind of aimlessly, and would need some help, which Father Retu is actually very versed at now giving. They bring her back to Zeberon, and Sarah takes up a full-time job as a Corsair operator. But that is basically her path. She becomes a career Corsair, and she turns into an operator for stuff that we'll get into a little bit later. Ryle, as much as he would love to stay with you all, he does. Ryle never leaves. He always stays in Kid's little pendant. As long as Kid makes sure to take him back to visit his mom, that becomes his new home. Because, I mean, what did you think, he was going to leave you?
Maybe.
And
Hey,
again,
Squee,
yes.
does he want to go out on adventures again?
Oh boy, does he!
Oh boy.
I'll get to that in a bit.
Oh jeez.
Am I forgetting any NPCs? I'd hate to think I'm forgetting NPCs. Any main ones that are on the ship with you guys, the crew. Any ones that other ones, and of course there's your family, which we'll get to in a moment, Isaac. I don't think so. So I think we'll move on. I just want to make sure I covered them before I forget. There is something way down the line that I'll need with Cyber 6, but I'll get to that in a moment. So, that out of the way, your family, Isaac. So you know your father's a wanted man
Mm-hmm.
by the Corsairs. How do you handle that? I mean, he's still wanted.
Well, eventually, Isaac will have a meeting with Hagen, just out of the blue, without consulting anybody else, and just ask him what can he do about removing this debt,
Well,
having Adelum be a free man again.
Well, Hagen's basic response would be, your father is wanted by the Corsairs because he broke Corsair protocol. He went after revenge and left his teammates, and that's not appropriate or ever forgiven. But he also helped change the timeline and ensure the Corsairs existed in the first place. So, as far as Admiral Hagen's concerned, Adelum is dead. He died in the big boom of Sigma 7. And this man, whoever it is you're talking about, he doesn't know this man. This man's certainly not a Corsair, but Hagen's never seen him before, as far as he's concerned.
That's great. That's fantastic.
So, you do quickly find that the relationship between your father and mother is a little strained on your father's side. Your mom, it's a weird thing. Your mom, it's like she woke up and nothing ever changed, except they both got older. But as far as she is concerned, she went to bed last night still very much husband and wife. Your father, on the other hand, had years upon years of mourning her and trying to gain revenge on her and coming to terms that she's dead. So there was some adjustment needed. No matter how much he loved her, of course, it's just not the same as it was back then. And they took some adjusting, getting used to that. But they did it. They worked through it with Theta's help. Theta was instrumental, actually, as a hand of reason. Which doesn't really sound like your sister, but when you're dealing with two people who are in love and confused and have trouble dealing with issues, having someone who maybe not the wisest person, but at least not madly in love and can think straight, guide them, helps a lot. And over the course of the next few years, they decide to try to be a family again, per se. However, Theta, still being young and energetic, decides to try and join the Corsairs. But what about your father and mother? What happens to them?
Well, after learning about that, Isaac will try and get them off of Earth, and moved somewhere closer. I don't know if they would want to be on Zebron per se, but maybe in that timeline, or even on Frontier.
I see. Excuse me. They'd probably want to be on that timeline just so they can be close to their kids. But I agree, Zebron might hold a bit too many memories for Adelum.
Absolutely.
So, probably another planet nearby, or maybe even one of the outer stations of Center, which is still around, of course. Just not quite the same. What would they do?
Question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if we actually went over this, but how is Cyrene in this timeline?
Cyrene in this timeline is not the worst planet, not the best planet. It's a planet that is suffering from overpopulation. It's not the giant cityscape that it was when Thraxis was a god, but it is a planet that is highly populated. with certain exceptions. There are sections of the planet that still have Thaladians that roam, even the big ones. So when I say that it's an overpopulation issue, I don't mean because they've taken over all the land. I mean because the inhabitable areas are not excessive on
Yeah.
Cyrene. But
Okay.
that said, they're still better off than they ever were under Thraxis. They're still a planet. They still take care of themselves more or less. And of course, the postcards and stuff you'd get from Cathor and Levine show that things are getting better. The populations are leveling out, and while that was a little horrific, populations do tend to level out. People start having less kids, and they find some sort of equilibrium, and things were getting much better. So, not exactly a fairy tale for that planet, but certainly better than what it was.
Yeah.
And the Ladians still exist.
Yeah. If that's the case, then definitely he would want them to settle on one of the outer space stations near center.
All right.
And I think it would be neat for Cathor, Adelum, to open up a weapons shop.
I'm sure. I mean, it's certainly something that he's good at. Perhaps a shop to sell techno wizard goods that Isaac makes.
Sure.
Because you know how he loves techno wizardry.
Yeah, and honestly, when he's not exploring anymore, that's where majority of his time and effort is going to be going into learning and perfecting his craft.
So, forgive me, remind me, Redfield, was that your father's last name?
That was his mother's last name.
What was your father's last name?
Well, you said Tabarus.
Oh, I just don't have the note right in front of me. I was hoping you did.
Yeah. Adelum Tabarus.
All right. So the thing is that he opens up a small shop with your mom, and they start selling goods, weapons, because that's what he knows. And then he starts getting handcrafted techno wizard weapons in. And I'd say over the course of the next 20 years or so, Redfield Tabarus weapons become a household name for synonymous with quality.
That's great. I love that.
God, your family's going to be building some sort of empire over here.
Yeah.
So Tabarus,
you know what?
Redfield's weapons are like they're not quite Naruni, but they're close.
Yeah, they're pretty fucking good. Focusing on allowing normal people to use techno wizardry.
Right, like the thing they're famous for is affordable but still decent quality goods and weapons. Yeah, so your parents basically live out their days there. Your dad, interesting thing to note, your father tests weapons and will fire weapons, but never uses them ever again, with one exception. About 15 years out, there's a break into his store, and he ends up having to, well, basically they end up breaking into the wrong store.
Yeah.
But with that exception, he never holds a gun as a weapon ever again.
Interesting.
Your sister, like I said, goes on to be a Corsair, and I'll get with her in a different area. But suffice to say, she has a pretty long, successful career as a Corsair. It fits her talents very well. So, what about you, Hart, and more importantly, Paw?
Well,
your former
I think
employer.
I think let's go into Paw first.
Sure.
Let's go into Paw.
You're the guy who kicked off the whole campaign, you could say.
Yeah, really. So he's gonna be leaving his. You know what? You go into it. You know what
Sure.
Paw is gonna do.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Paw It was all stars and horizons in his eyes when he first realized that there was time travel and that you had a ship that had a second interior. Um, Thinking all the things he could do with time travel. Very quickly, those dreams were dashed. He realized that he's not the first guy to have these ideas, and the Commonwealth squashed those abilities a long time ago to smuggle through time. Not that it doesn't happen, but not in the ways he was thinking, especially when it comes to like betting on sports events and gambling and all that stuff. But he does love the fact that you have a ship with a secret interior that people can't detect,
Mhm.
unless they're like an incredibly talented techno wizard, which not many of those in the universe, honestly. So he he actually like tries to convince Isaac over and over to let him use the ship to do smuggling runs, and I gotta imagine that that's at least at first a hard sell, at least to an extent. I don't know. It's up to you. For Heart's a hard sell because she doesn't want to get thrown in prison. Um, but how would Isaac feel in the short term, at least, of Pa constantly pestering you to run smuggling runs?
Isaac wouldn't agree to it like constantly, and then eventually, after a while, like respectfully bring up and show him the laws regarding this
My
and how
okay.
much trouble they would get into.
My thought is, Pa, being crafty and clever as he always is,
Mm-hmm.
bides his time. And there comes a time, we'll get into details later because I know you have details for this, but there comes a time where Isaac comes to him asking for Heart's hand. Because
Mm-hmm.
Isaac's a gentleman, he's old fashioned. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he would go to Pa to say, I want to marry your daughter. And on that day,
The son of a bitch.
on that day, Pa would go, well, I could consider such a thing. You come to me wanting my daughter's hand. No, on that day he convinces you to use a second chance on occasion to run smuggled goods to a very new contact who Anna introduced him to by the name of Finn Mookie.
Oh, that's no big deal. Like if he heard Finn Mookie, then it's absolutely no big deal whatsoever.
Yeah, but he never told you that because where's the fun?
Yeah.
You would find that that Pa would eventually give up Frontier Station, leave it in capable hands.
Mm-hmm.
Not Snipes' hands, definitely not Snipes' hands. But he would leave it
Yeah.
in capable hands of his underlings to be closer to his daughter, who is now taking a permanent residency on Zeberon.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes to the future. He still has contacts with the Frontier Station. Um, and excuse me, he is introduced to Finn Mookie, and they develop a very lucrative business together, being the only people in town with a ship that can successfully smuggle goods into Zebron with 100% success rate.
Via an alternate dimension.
Yeah, via an alternate dimension. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that becomes Pa's new game, and he and Finn Mookie gain a lot of influence from this. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the only game in town.
Legitimately the
uh,
only game in town.
their power is held in check simply by the fact that these shipments by nature have to be fairly small in the grand scheme of things. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it works well. It's a good relationship. And hey, Isaac gets gets the hand of Heart, or gets his Pa's permission. So
Mm-hmm.
that out of the way, and I know we're slowly leading up to it, but over the next several years, what's in store for Isaac and Heart?
Okay, so the biggest thing is, and um, this would happen after Heart's arms feel better, and she is able to use them fully and all of that. The the movie business would come and see what she's up to because they haven't done a movie with her in a while.
True, it's time
And
for her resurgence.
yeah, it's time for her resurgence. But she kind of gets Isaac on board as well as her plucky little sidekick.
So, yeah, I'll fill in a few of the details. So,
Mm-hmm.
they do a lot of crowd testing. I forget exactly what it's called. Market testing, and think that the time is ripe for Hart's short-lived movie career to have a resurgence. People are
Yeah.
pining for it. It was one of those perfect storms where they got just enough of her to want more, and then she disappeared for a few years. And now they really, really want her back. And Hart, wanting to spend more time with Isaac and wanting to help get him out of his funk, to help him kind of unwithdraw from the world, convinces them to sign what started off as a 6-movie contract with you as a supporting role. And they start a series where Hart becomes very much an Indiana Jones character or a Tomb Raider type of character. It's a series of movies where she is a treasure hunter on ancient planets and technologically advanced planets, and it covers the whole spectrum. And she's smart and witty and super charming and can talk her way out of anything. And if there ever comes to blows, if there's ever trouble, her faithful bodyguard is by her side, ready and willing with 6-shooters to get her out of trouble. And it becomes a 6-movie deal that, of course, eventually turns into a whole career of these adventures, and it turns into a smash hit. There's a whole extended universe. They do team ups. It's a whole MCU thing. And by the way, the rest of you, I mean, not only would you know about it, you can't get away from it. Every 2 years, there's another one up on the billboards. And the coolest thing of all is that in the 6th movie, which, well, should probably be like the 3rd movie, 6 years or so, the bodyguard and the heroine finally tie the knot. And in the movie, it's a very thrilling moment because they're in the middle of a high action scene and there's explosions all around them, and Isaac's character just saved Hart's character's life, and she grabs the priest that's nearby, who happens to be played by Father Retu, grabs it and says, "We're doing it here!" And right then and there, as explosions play all around them, they are married. And a little fun Easter egg for the real diehard fans of the series is that was an actual wedding performed by a real minister, and that is how Isaac and Hart got married. And only people who are diehard fans know that. Everyone else just thought it was just part of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's also the only movie that stars supporting roles from Kid, Anna, Tessa, Lucas, Cyber 6, Indigo, and everyone that you invite to your wedding ends up being an extra in that movie.
Various different roles and such.
Of course. Yeah, you all have minor parts, like in the action scene you all see like each of your characters gets a moment where you're doing something amazing, except Lucas, who's doing something weird, because they kept trying to get him to do something, and he, every time the camera rolls, he just wouldn't do what they wanted. And eventually they just took a take and said, "Let's just run with this one." What would Lucas do?
You think Lucas is not an actor? You think he does not have the charisma and focus that he needs to actually say a line that is written on things that he can't read?
That's what I'm saying, yes. So, like, I imagine just cameras roll and Lucas just does Lucas.
But
love
isn't that
this.
what we would want from Lucas in a movie?
It is.
Yeah.
He ends up getting like a cult following. It's like the only scene he's ever in any movie, but it's like that one guy. It's like I can't think of one at the moment, but there's got to be some bit part in a movie that everyone knows that bit actor. You know what I mean? That everyone can they say a line in such a cool way, or the guy that did the Wilhelm scream. Like everyone knows Lucas's character. Like, oh, he's that guy in that third movie.
So, generally, what Lucas does is he plays at least what he thinks is the lines, which is pretty accurate to what the script has. And then, at a point where he just doesn't know where to go, which is probably right in the middle of a sentence, he stops, goes his eyes dilate. He stops all things. He slowly leans his head back, and his mouth goes wide open, and just makes a grinding noise with his mouth.
Probably one of those things where just take that one, we'll fix it in post. They never fixed it in post. The director's cut has a 30 seconds of it cut out that were put back in. I imagine kids scene was well received. I was a little thing where kids just fighting in the battle, and she actually ended up sending 6 people to the hospital that day because she was just a little too enthused.
God, I'm just imagining whoever was coordinating the fight is just okay, you just gotta do this. I know you're a little on the small side, but I think we can. They're just I've got this.
And there's 6 stuntmen that are just they have to get minor injuries treated because they just
God.
yeah. And then I gotta imagine, Anna, tell me if I'm thinking wrong on this, but they give you a little part, and they're like, you know what, just be flashy, just do something cool, and you Thor it up, and they just do a, oh, that's good, we're keeping that. Let's just keep that. That's good. Okay, we'll keep that.
It didn't destroy the cameras.
Yeah. They have long distance shooting cameras. They had drones up in the sky. But yeah, so you all had little bit parts in that movie where Isaac and Hart got married. And there's a scene at the end of the movie where they're riding off to the sunset on a mechanical horse by the name of Quicksilver, and that's literally them riding off to their honeymoon.
I love this.
So I imagine in the more distant future, the Hart and Isaac would have a long career. Hart would continue movies. Isaac, though, takes a slightly different path, doesn't he?
Yeah, he definitely does. Earlier I mentioned how he would record himself, and just talking about how this works, how that works, and just going really into techno-wizardry just to get it out. Because he's used to talking to Cathor about this, and now that Cathor is gone, it's a bit of an adjustment. But one of the movie producers finds this and approaches Isaac with an idea to make it into a TV show of just him explaining techno-wizardry. And it ends up being something very similar to today's Mythbusters, although they're canceled or they're done, but something like Mythbusters, and it becomes the de facto way to learn techno-wizardry easily.
I like that. In today's episode, touching 2 plates. What happens?
Yeah. In today's episode, why you should follow the water equilibrium theory and not reverse the negatives. This is the result.
Real quick. Almost forgot. I have to go back a little bit. So, big movie stars in big budget films need big time managers. And Hart will accept no other than her best friend and companion, Tessa, who turns out to have a a bit of a mean streak when it comes to negotiation. And the way I imagine it is when you sign the 6-movie deal, you kind of got a little screwed. I mean, like, you got compensated very well. You're both very rich people. But the movie studio tried to get away with this and that, and then Tessa came in and she took that contract and squeezed it for all it was worth. And just went like just extorting the contract, or contorting the contract to the limits, just to make sure that her friend and the crazy guy her friend fell in love with get everything they can. And she actually becomes a full-time agent, especially after the 6-movie deal. Any other future films that Hart is in and Isaac's TV show are all negotiated through Tessa.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
And yeah, I mean, you'll see Tessa walking around in like business casual, but when she's going in for like meetings to negotiate, like hair's done in a bun. She's got small glasses. Doesn't need them, but she has them. And a clipboard. Like, who even uses a clipboard anymore? She's got one. But the TV show is definitely a success. It's a hit. It's TV, so it's still not like, you're not the A-list star that Hart is. But I think Isaac would kind of prefer it that way. He's famous, but he's not.
Oh yeah.
He's not Robert Downey Jr. famous. You know, he's more in the background. He's got a following, but most of his following are techno wizard enthusiasts. People that he can talk to, that when they come up to ask him a question, they're not just asking him to sign an autograph, they're asking him about this new technique or design they made, or this thing he did on the show that they didn't understand. And that's the kind of following that Lucas gets. I mean, that Isaac gets.
Isaac gets.
Yes, that Isaac gets. Wow, all the way to the end of the campaign and I'm still doing that. And I would say that would continue on for quite a while, until you're both into your silver years and can retire happily.
Yeah, and they end up becoming so rich. They end up making a space station that used to that does now house the Tabarys Redfield production.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's also, you do commercials for them.
Yeah.
When I make top quality weapons, I don't just sell it at Walmart, Space Walmart. I only sell it at Tabard and Redfield. No, yeah. So you eventually build your own space station, which is, I'm assuming, much more of a comfortable living place than, say, a militaristic or business type place.
It's way more comfortable than anything. But there's also like shops and things like that for people to come on by.
And I imagine that Isaac would probably never, like, eventually the TV show would end, but you could still find Isaac on the space YouTube, still making videos about what he's passionate about, and still having a very large following. Very much like the why can't I think of his name? The guy that was on
Adam
Mythbusters.
Savage.
Adam Savage, thank you. He was
Adam
on Mythbusters,
Savage.
but just because that ended didn't mean he did. So I imagine the same basic concept. Yeah. Anything else you'd want to cover with your character?
The only thing I can think of is that eventually Hart and Isaac do not have children, but instead they adopt.
That's very nice. There's one more thing I want to cover. And I haven't told you about this because I want your reactions to it.
Oh, okay.
When you are in your silver years, you and Hart both, many years down the road, when certain people are in respectable positions for certain things, there becomes a first contact of sorts the Cyber Conclave makes contact with the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
They want to bring their Dyson Sphere in to start trading and to make contact. But it's a very tenuous and careful exchange because even Cyber 6 is not sure if they're here peacefully or not. And they are such a massive society that it could be really, really bad. And there's a couple of months where everyone's really tense because if war breaks out, this would be a hell of a war.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some miscommunications. The cybers don't understand organics. Organics don't understand the cybers. And there are some tense situations, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
But then two people come to the forefront together in unity. Cyber 6 and Heart. And Heart, using her fame and the skills she has earned over a long career as a movie actress, her charisma, act as a bridge between the Cyber Conclave and the Organics as a literal combination of the two. She talks about how her arms were given to her. She never speaks of it as a hindrance, but as only a gift. And that Cyber 6 has been her friend and their protector for so long. And through them, over a couple of years, it takes time, but an understanding is achieved. And treaties are signed. And war is averted.
I fucking love that. I love that so much. That's great. Thank you, Squay.
No problem. So, the story of Isaac Redfield comes to a bit of a close. And we have to deal with a couple of other people. Thank you, Bern. So,
No, thank you.
backing up a bit, the rest of you three, who take a slightly different path than Isaac, who understandably decided to step away from the adventuring life, kind of. I mean, one could say making a movie is an adventure in itself. But you guys take a slightly different path. So let's back up a bit. And let's say the first short term, couple of years or so after the big boom.
Mhm.
Let's start with you, Anna, and then we'll sprinkle the others in as we go along or as prevalent. What do you do? What's your goals and what are your events?
Are we doing this narratively or in roleplay?
We are going to do it in roleplay, but I will
Okay.
need a little bit of setup.
Anna is going to go join the Corsairs so that she, one, after being on the ship with Admiral Hagen and feeling calm for the first time probably ever in her life, that became very addicting. And then with the added bonus of you can make a lot of money, which she now needs if she wants to get Sam a better body that isn't just boxes, essentially, it seemed like the next best step in her life to do.
So I imagine that this decision would be solidified in a particular place. So not long after, of course, Anna and Sam would kind of go back to what they know, which is Finn Mookie and the bar. And Sam takes up a position kind of running the bar, not quite bartending, but he does do that too, but more running the legitimate side of the bar.
The manager.
The manager. So I imagine that this would come to a head or be brought up at the bar, of course. Maybe kids sitting with you. Maybe Lucas is in there, not sure. But it's you and Sam at the bar, probably towards closing time after a few have been knocked back. And would you... So I imagine Anna's been thinking about this.
Yes.
Wow. Let's go into character. How do you approach this? How do you broach the subject?
She'll probably go quiet for a little moment and not look at him go, I think I know how to make money to get you a new body.
I keep
I'm not sure if you're gonna like it.
Anna.
Yeah?
And he hesitates. And you know that for him, it's always been a constant conflict between wanting to tell you not to worry yourself and the real inability to hide the fact that he wants a body. So it's always this conflict with him, and after a while he goes, what are you thinking?
I think I might join the Corsairs.
The what?
They make good money.
Yeah. They also, in case you didn't realize, don't like people like us. Remember? Black market?
I mean, how I was introduced to them even in the first place was through a politician who was arguing that the Corsairs is just made up of a bunch of criminals to start with, and me being accused of trying to assassinate her. But, so I don't think they hate us as much as they want to present.
Okay. All right. Even if I grant you that. Hannah, Corsairs, they die every day. That sure, I'm sure it's good money, but it's money hunting down killers, murderers, thieves.
How is that any different than what our life was previously? I didn't even think I would live past 27. I thought I'd be dead by now.
I know. So did I, more or less. Me, not you. He like holds his hands up. Not you. I just.
Let's be real, both of us.
It's dangerous, you know?
Again, what else is new? And when I was on one of their ships, like, what, 2 months ago, and there's just this feeling on those ships. I feel calm for the first time. And I kind of want that back.
And he'll look up. Kid, talk some sense into her.
You want Kid to talk sense to me? All right.
I was gonna say, Kid just kind of like
he doesn't have anyone else.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, Kids just like looks up from like whatever they're doing. They're probably like doing something on a tablet or something, just like
Playing Candy Crush.
how probably just like looks at him and then kind of glances around like, how am I supposed to do that?
You don't think it's a good idea, right? The Corsairs?
I mean, why not? They already offered us a job at one point. Why not?
And like he just kind of sighs, realizing you're not going to be any help.
Sorry that Tessa isn't here to back you up on this one.
Yeah.
Maybe why I brought it up now.
Are you set on this?
I think so.
I'm not going to stop you. Just.
I don't want to die young anymore. But I also cannot just sit in a bar my entire life.
I know, Anna. I know. You're all I've got, you know? I don't know anyone else. Certainly no one else that remembers me.
I'm not going to die, and I'm not just going to abandon.
Well then, what can I do to help?
I don't know.
Yeah, the answer would be nothing. There's nothing he can really. Look, I'm sorry, that's not really in his wheelhouse, but it's a nice sentiment.
You threw me for a loop there. I'm like, is there something? Because I don't know what it would be.
No, that's more like the end of that conversation.
Okay.
We'll draw back out a little bit here. And we're going to handle a little bit narratively. So, Kid, you're joining the Corsairs too?
Why, yes, they are.
Why would that be?
Well, they were kind of born into a role, and then when they escaped, they kind of stumbled into a role, and then after that role was pretty much accidentally stripped from them, they were immediately adopted into a new role. So they've never really had like a set path of, yeah, this is what I want to do. So the fact that Isaac is no longer interested in adventuring and kids pretty much found out, okay, apparently I have actual family who isn't, pieces of shit. I guess I should probably like hang out with them and do family things. Well, okay, listen.
Play Candy Crush at the bar.
Exactly. Um but yeah, once Anna proposes the idea of becoming a corsair, they're like, well, I'm not gonna stop you. And the more they think about it, the more they're like, you know what, that sounds a lot more interesting than this. And so they essentially join the corsairs alongside Anna, partially to, you know, keep her safe, but also the corsairs get to do interesting things.
Yeah, no, they do, definitely. Okay. Um, one more thing. Lucas,
That's me.
two things. One, I heard you also have an interest in joining the Corsairs. Why would that be?
Why would Lucas want to join the Corsairs? Because he felt like it at that one moment, and he may or may not stay.
Sure.
But I think he probably will.
Sure, but like many things in his life, it was a choice of almost whimsy. However,
As Lucas does.
Lucas has a problem. Corsairs
Yeah.
require at least 3 to 4 years of school.
I already went to college.
Yes, but I believe you dropped out.
Yeah.
But A for effort.
Well, it's either one of two options. Either A, Lucas is just gonna look at that and leave, or two, Lucas does what Lucas is best at and freaking circumvent the system to get his way. Because, my god, does he not want to do any sort of classes?
Okay. How do you circumvent the system?
Well, he can ask really nicely.
I'm not sure that'll. I'm not sure that'll quite be enough.
No?
Mm.
How about I can use one of my latent abilities of being able to copy people's voices to perfection, which he's nailed every single time.
Yes, every time. The entire campaign.
I don't. He's a master of perfection on this thing. He can just let's see, who's a good one to who's the superintendent in here?
Admiral
Can I do-
Hagen.
I can use that. Yeah, that's fine. I can do Admiral Hagen.
Okay.
I've listened to him enough.
All right. So let's see. How does this play out? You call the school. I assume there's someone at the school you would call the principal or the head Corsair attendant. And
I'm sure I would get their home phone number.
Professor Tolkien speaking.
Admiral Hagen speaking.
Oh, Admiral, it's 1:30 in the morning.
Yes, I'm doing my usual, checking things over, usually in my robe and not much else, with a glass of wine.
Right, I didn't need the play-by-play. Is there something I can help you with, Admiral?
Yeah, yes. I've been looking through a few files, and it looks like, um, well, there's some bright and promising Corsairs that I need to actually get filed through the system. Um, they have actually gotten more than enough. Let's just say they have a lot of promise already. I don't want them to go through all of that, as well as I need them to do a few extra jobs on the side, so they cannot be bothered with, what was it, homework? Think it was homework. Basically, what I'm saying is I would like a few choice students that would be enrolling to mm, pass without resistance.
So, Admiral, let me make sure I understand this correctly, because it is.
Mhm.
I was asleep.
It's breezy in here. Sorry, go on.
You're saying that you have some agents that you're implanting in my school that need to pass the Corsair courses, but they're going to be doing other things for you so that they don't have time to actually take the courses?
Yeah. It's much more of a formality. They have to be present. They need they basically need to seem like that they are full students to get through all of the to get through all of the checks and balances that we so thoroughly put in.
You hear like a snort. Right. Well, absolutely, Admiral. I'd be more than happy to do that for you. If you could just 1 second. Hang on.
You grinding up official documents again? My boy.
Yes. I figure since I'm up, I might as well make a snack. No, if you would just submit a proper code of authorization, of course, Admiral. Oh, for the love.
Code.
Hi.
I do have. Do you know of the code?
The code?
The mainframe code.
Of course I know about that code. I mean, I don't know the code, but I know about it. It's something you and high officials have, of course.
Well, if you can verify such a code that I give you, mind you, it's used, so it's not much good for me now, but it's well enough authorization code for you, would you say?
Yes, I could, but wait, are you saying you use the code, Admiral?
Well, yes! What, you didn't use yours yet?
I don't
Oh, that's right, you don't have one!
He's not laughing, he's not amused. He's just like, yes, I can verify the code.
Alright, I'll send it over. You can't just read this thing out.
Yeah, no, you submit the code and like there's a moment pause. Oh. Understood, Admiral. Who are these students that we will be passing through?
Let's see, bright young student, I think it was Kid. Doesn't have a last name, surprisingly.
Yes,
Lucas.
I have her on the attendance sheet.
Lucas. Yeah, he hasn't really gotten a chance to, you'll probably see him within a day or two. Interesting fellow, also doesn't have a last name, uses two U's. Apparently less peculiar in most places.
I see.
And, there should be an Anna, that is signed up with a Kid as well.
Yes, there were two that signed up together, an Anna and a Kid. These are your, shall we say, agents?
Let's just leave it at that. You can use your imagination for the rest.
Understood. Well, Admiral, rest assured that it's safe in my hands, and I won't speak of this. We'll just make sure that their grades are subtly changed when the time is required. I just must say at first that, at least so it's on record, this is highly unusual, Admiral.
Isn't it always?
I suppose it is. And like the phone just hangs up.
He hung up on me.
So,
Demoted.
here's an important question. Do you tell Kid and Anna about this?
I mean, we know what we want the answer to be.
You know what? I mean, I think Lucas will keep it under his hat unless he sees any of them actually like kind of breaking down about it.
Given Kid's intelligence, they'd probably have to work really hard, but I can't see them breaking down. You know what? Elora, back me up on this one. Not in front of people.
Oh, hell no. Like, at one point, like, there might be one specific thing that they really have an issue with. It's probably some kind of social contract or some shit like that they're just like, it doesn't make sense. But it's less, like, public and more just, like, them in their room being like, what the actual fuck, and throwing a book at a wall or something like that. So,
Gotcha.
yeah,
So,
no.
give me a
There's
second.
a lot of broken furniture.
Try.
So we'll cut ahead. The three of you enroll into Corsair Academy, and you know it's going to be 3.5 years on the fast track through the academy. And your first professor, you walk into class on the first day, and you see a professor sitting in a chair, legs crossed up on the desk, short red hair, hands behind her head. Charlotte, just chewing bubblegum. She looks over and she goes, "Oh, look, it's the new recruits. Class! Those of you who got here on time," and she looks at the three of you. I'd like to introduce you to our newest Corsair cadets. Personal friends of mine, you might say. This is Kid, Little Murder Furball.
Kid frowns at that, just kind of like, is she drunk?
Your nose can tell. Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit.
A tiny bit sauced.
Just a mimosa.
And then she'll nod to Anna. This is. Would you have used your whole name when you registered? Or...
Yeah. Yeah, Dad's dead. Let's use royal name.
Yeah. This is Anastasia. She goes by Anastasia.
She gets a slight, like, I will remember this, and I can also make your life hell look to Charlotte.
And Charlotte just kind of gives like a confident grin. No, she's the teacher. She's obviously in control here. I mean, she can fail you at any time, right? Why wouldn't she be able to do that? She certainly doesn't know. And she goes, and Lucas.
Lucas is dressed up in a ninja outfit.
Because it's college. He's been here before.
This is a college uniform, right? Colleges have uniforms, right?
So,
hi, my name is Lucas. I would like to see you all in the future, or not. Little ninja joke. Anyway.
Kid just runs their hands down their face like, oh my god, this is gonna be a long 3 years.
3.5.
Charlotte laughs so hard those chair rolls out from under her. like legitimately makes her snort. She stands up.
Incredible.
She goes, "Take your seats." And I'm going to briefly go over the next 3 years. So, Anna and Kid. Well, no. So here's how this would work. Lucas, you know you don't have to do crap. You show up to class, you do whatever amuses you, and you go home.
Yeah.
Anna
I
and
would
Kid.
try at least a little not to interrupt other people doing their work.
Sure. Anna and Kid, you're convinced the first semester he's just making a joke out of this. He's gonna fail out, and you know what? It's Lucas. Okay, it's fine. Lucas gets straight A's.
Yeah, like the whole first semester, Kid's just like, listen, I get that literally everything is a joke to you, but seriously, just at least try a little bit. And then they get the grades back, and they're just like, what kind of magic bullshit are you pulling right now?
All three of us got straight A's, right?
Yeah, all three of you got straight A's, but I mean, you and Kid worked for them.
No!
Yeah, Kid worked hard
So-
for those
so
A's.
Anna, well,
You're overestimating what kind of student Anna was.
well,
Where she'll get it done, but she's doing the bare minimum.
well, I would think that Anna would, in a few weeks, kind of pick up what's going on, because the teachers keep dropping subtle hints of like, "Oh, Anna did well on this test. Probably better than you really. Probably studied more than you needed to, huh? you know." And after a while, you realize Lucas isn't doing anything, and these teachers are dropping hints, and you're like, something's going on. So
Yeah.
So, and then I would imagine, being wise as you are, you would coast the first semester to see what grades you get. You know what I mean? Like, to put enough effort in, but certainly not straight A's. So when you get the straight A's, you're like, oh. Kid, on the other hand, Kid doesn't understand subtlety.
No, you have to beat them over the head with a brick for anything to go through.
Kid works their ass off.
Uh-huh.
For 3.5 years. For 3.5 years. Anna and Lucas coast. Sometimes not even showing up to class. Kid, every day.
Never take a sick day. Just constantly studying, keeping up on like different rules and changes and policy and shit like that. They've got the entire book memorized. Everyone else is just like, oh wait, what page was that on?
And as it so happens, graduation day lines up where in the morning you graduate as fully fledged Corsairs, and in the afternoon you have to run to a movie studio to shoot a small bit part because your friends are getting married on set that day. Maybe that's why Kid hurt a few people accidentally. Maybe that's the day they let Kid know. Or did
One of the teachers is finally just like, I was really kind of skeptical. Like, you worked your ass off and you didn't even need to. And they're just like, what do you mean I didn't need to? And they're just like, oh. Oh, what?
And it's like one of those where it's like, I'm not supposed to tell you.
To not tell me what?
No, I mean, this is a test, right?
Just continuous staring of like, you can't just bring something up like that and just drop it. Like that you can't. What are you talking about?
Admiral Hagen told us that you and your friends were his agents, and that you were to be passed through Corsair Academy despite what your grades were to give you A's. You knew this. Your friends knew this.
Just stares for like a solid 30 seconds and then goes, what?
You see Charlotte laughing her ass off in the background somewhere.
Oh my god. I like to imagine this is like off in the background of like the graduation.
Yeah.
Like the teacher pulled them aside and they're just like scream across the classroom.
Actually, it would be Wansuk.
Oh my god, it would be.
So, you learn what does Kid do?
Oh my god. Kid's just like analyzing every single piece of information just over the past 3.5 years.
It all
Like, not
snaps.
only the level of studying, but just like all of the hints. Everything's falling into place. And finally, they go over to Anna and go, "You knew!"
I knew, but it wasn't my idea. And I wasn't told either, to be fair. Please don't kill me.
You knew and you didn't tell me?
This was more amusing. I mean, you could take it up with Admiral Hagen if you want, I guess.
No, this is fine. One of us might as well know the material. It's going to be
Good, I'm
anyone.
relying on you.
Clearly, it's gonna be me.
Good. I'll fly.
Yeah, we're gonna be late for the shoot.
The entire rest of the day, kids just like losing their fucking mind in the background. Face is like stony by the time they get to the fucking the fucking set, and then finally they're just like, no, I've got this. Okay, yeah, you just go onto your back and you just kind of like push them with your foot, and they'll do the rest of the flip, and they just kick them across the room.
And hence 6 stuntmen were wounded that day.
She lifts the car. Probably. Oh my god.
But you all pass. Congratulations, Lucas, on the hard work.
Thank you. I rolled really well to get here.
And sorry, I forgot to mention. One of the people they went through a different class than you because they joined a year sooner, or a year later actually it would have been because they were helping Isaac's parents. But Theta would graduate a year after you, without the same benefits, obviously. And would eventually join your team. Sarah would request to be your operator. I'm sorry, Winston's taken by another group.
No.
And you guys would get your ship, grown specifically for you. And an interesting thing you note, Anna, you especially, since this is part of the reason why you joined, is when you first get on the ship, you don't feel a connection to it. It feels like a ship. But Charlotte would have told you, because I think once you were in on the joke, Charlotte became more of a drinking buddy than an actual teacher.
Hannah's good at that. She's good
Yeah.
at getting drinking buddies.
Yeah, she is. Charlotte would have told you that it takes time. It takes time, and you were on Admiral Hagen's ship, who had been with his ship for a century. And as the years do go by and you go on more missions and spend more time in the ship, you do start to feel the connection, and it is, well, more subtle, far more deeper than anything you felt in a Hagen ship, because this is your ship. And you do develop, all of you, Kid included, you develop a bond with your ship to where when you sleep, you swear it sings to you. When you're on the ship, you feel tranquil. You will sometimes find yourself, when you're passing the engine room, just stopping to feel the heartbeat, to listen to your ship. And by forming such a connection with it, it pulls you out of many, many tight spots over the years, as being a Corsair is a very dangerous job.
I think being Kid is more dangerous.
Yeah, probably.
And also an interesting thing is, at first, as the bond is kind of forming, Kid's fairly uncomfortable with it, oddly enough, because any kind of connection like mind to mind has never been something comfortable with them, especially after their experiences with Naga.
Sure.
But over the years, it slowly becomes more of something that they're okay with, and then eventually it's just natural, which is an interesting evolution for them.
So,
Because,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, mostly because it feels less like an invasion and more kind of like you said, there's this kind of song to it, so it's less of a uh, probing and more of an envelopment.
Right. So, we'll say maybe 5 or so years pass as you're slowly building up your bounties and becoming a very successful team. Um,
Hell yeah, we are.
and after one more successful mission, a very dangerous one that you managed to pull off, Anna, you finally save up enough. But you have been keeping it kind of close to your chest. You haven't been, it's not like you've been giving Sam steady updates because it might do more harm than good. You know what I mean? You don't want him thinking about it every day. But after a hard mission, you guys get back to Zebron and you all head back to the bar where you see Sam behind the counter on this night actually serving drinks. Well, well, well. It isn't my favorite Corsairs. It's been, what, 2 months?
Was it really that long?
Oh, it was. You notice that in the past 5 years, he's grown more accustomed to his mechanical body. It's certainly not as lithe, I guess you could say, as a human body, but he certainly is more fluid in it, able to pour drinks and handle things much more expertly now that he's had time in it. And his disposition has improved as, you know, eventually in time, you either have to get better or go mad, right?
Mhm.
But he goes, yep, 2 months, 3 days, and 22 hours, actually. Not that anyone's keeping track.
No, not that you're counting at all. And Anna, in a moment of familiarity, instead of, waiting for him to pass your drink or going behind the bar like a normal person, just kind of like climbs on top and like sets her butt on the counter and just kind of like spins over the counter and jumps down and starts serving herself.
You hear your little sister's voice over to the side. Well, hello to you too, sis.
Tessa?
She's slightly gone.
Damn, do I have
Yes,
to catch up to you already?
Tessa, you should be congratulating me
Why should I be congratulating you today?
because I just signed a deal. Isaac Redfield is now the primo TV star.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
13%.
Are they on Zebron or?
Oh, you know them, flying around on the ship. He says it helps him think or whatever.
Fair enough.
But 13% of that deal is more than enough to keep me happy.
Clearly.
And she nods. And it looks like she was very well dressed like 3 hours ago.
I would get a drinking competition with you right now, but I have a feeling you would fall under the table immediately.
Glad you're safe, sis.
Glad you're doing well as well.
And you too, kid. You keeping my other sister, safe?
When she isn't running face first into danger, as Kid like hops up onto a bar stool that they've pretty much claimed as their own.
So,
Does it go up and down for them?
Kid like reaches a hand over the bar, kind of like groping around, and probably like pulls out a secret box of crackers.
So, you guys might be interested to know, Tessa says, there's been a story on the vidcoms lately about
Mm-hmm.
your Corsair team.
Oh, that doesn't sound.
Oh no, it's fantastic. And you see Sam nodding. It's actually really good. And she goes, seems one of your bounties that you caught, 8 months ago. A creepy guy, half bald. You remember the one?
She grimaces.
He was telling stories to the news reporters. Something about a gigantic rainbow worm pinning him to the ground, about ready to eat him. It was good times. No one believes him, of course. They think he's going crazy. But they tried to make a computerized rendition of it. Oh, they did not do Ryle justice. Don't show it to him.
Oh, no. No. Are you sure? That sounds fun.
Oh, the best part. Best part is he says that the thing pinned him. You know what? Actually, Sam, you got that. And Sam's just like, I got it. And he pops it up on the TV screen. This is a guy you caught about 8 months ago, and he's just like got these wild, crazy eyes. And I'm telling you, he pinned me down, and he was growling at me. And then there's this little demon with fur, and she was wearing a Corsair uniform, but it couldn't have been a Corsair. And then, and he stops, and then you hear the reporting outside the camera. Then what? And then it rained fish. I'm sorry, what? It rained fish. Uh-huh. No, you gotta believe me. It rained fish. And fish fell everywhere. It hit me in the face. It was the damnedest thing you ever saw. You don't believe me. No, I believe you. And like you hear, like you see the report, like the cut sign. And then it just like shuts off, and you see Tessa just giggling over on the counter.
Yeah, I remember those fish. I think he called it different species than normal this time.
I told him to stop doing that in the middle of missions.
He's
No,
like,
let him have this.
For Ryle, it's become like a calling card type thing.
It's his business card.
Yeah. Who's become like an honorary Corsair.
We don't tell anyone we have him.
Right.
But
No.
You pull him out on missions, and then he rains fish. And Sam goes, so, how long you here for this time?
oh, I think I might be here for a couple months this time.
Oh.
I got something to enjoy.
And that would be?
I finally saved up enough money.
The bottle he was holding slips out of his mechanical hand and hits
And
the
it
floor.
tries to catch it.
We'll say yeah.
Do you want me to roll this?
No.
Do you want me to roll this?
No.
I want to roll this.
Okay, yeah, roll it. By all means.
High catches. 64. So yeah, I guess she catches it. That's boring.
You're a trained Corsair. You got this. You catch
Also,
it.
not going to waste liquor.
Right, yeah, no. You have enough?
Yep.
Oh, Anna,
I already booked the appointment on the way here.
Without a word, he kind of slowly sinks to the ground and breaks down just a little bit. I mean, not exactly his most heroic moment, certainly, but
good thing he's a robot.
Yeah.
He just fixed him.
But that kind of
And
news.
it's going to start clearing out, telling everyone to get out of the bar.
Yeah, people make their way out. And I close the bar. And you hear quietly from over the counter, Anna?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the least I can do.
You know,
Go.
like you both like start talking at the same time. And
You go.
If we do this, if I if I get my body back, or a body back, I don't want to stay behind a bar anymore while you go off somewhere for months.
What are you suggesting?
I want to travel with you. I can't, not in this. I'd be no help to anyone. But I'm not gonna get a body back and then sit behind a bar wondering if you'll ever return.
Are you going to actually go through the process of becoming a Corsairs, or are you just going to hang out on our ship?
Well, like for the
You're
first
gonna hang
time.
out on our ship.
Yeah, for the first time, there's like some emotion in his voice. He's like, well, maybe I could just, consult.
You're going to hang out on our ship.
I want to hang out on the ship.
Okay. You can hang out on the ship.
Kid kind of narrows their eyes at him, just kind of like, yeah, because apparently I'm the only one in this family allowed to actually go through school and give a shit.
Theta did.
Theta did it. Sarah did it. Ryle didn't.
Ryle sure didn't.
Anna half-assed it.
The next morning, because when you've got that kind of money, they make the time for you.
Mhm.
Sam goes under an 18-hour procedure. This time, it's not psychics trying to move a spinal cord and brain between robotic bodies in the impromptu med bay. This time, it's an actual medical facility and an 18-hour surgery to do it, and do it well. But he's given, obviously not his original body, of course not, but it is a biomechanical body, meaning it is still mechanical. In many ways, he's still improved over the average human. He's stronger, he's faster, he'll live probably twice as long, but it is engineered out of organic material, and it, for all intents and purposes, it feels, looks, and acts as a normal body. And looks like him from 5 years ago. Or actually, it'd be like 8 years ago now.
It would be more like 10 years ago now.
But it looks like him from the latest pictures they had of him.
Oh, no, what's the funny thing about that? That means he looks like he's in his early 20s, while Anna's probably like mid-30s at this point.
Probably. Still, Anna wears her years well.
Oh, Anna's going to age wonderfully.
She'll just get that like small silver streak in the hair, but that's about it.
Oh, no, she's gonna look great.
But after 18 hours, he comes out, and he's wearing like hospital pajama pants, and he comes out and he's just looking at his hands, and he's like flexing them and opening them and closing them, and he looks up and he sees you.
How's it feel?
And he just hugs you.
Oh no, Anna's gonna cry for probably the first time ever.
Yeah, and he cries too, and after a while you hear very
They
softly.
gave him tear ducts. Oh.
Very softly after a minute. I'm very hungry.
When was the last time you ate something?
10 years ago?
Well, I know a pie place.
Yeah, probably more tears. I mean, he had biomechanical substances to keep his spinal cord and brain alive, but that's not the same as eating.
We also have a pie place that we use.
Yes, there is a pie place. And you guys go and you share a pie.
Yay.
Now, I'm going to, for the sake of the story, skip ahead about 40 years, 30, 35 years. Anna, Kid, you're both still Corsairs, and you don't do field work as much as you used to. You, as much as you didn't really want to, rose through the ranks of the Corsairs, as time and talent does. Kid, you look exactly the same way you always have. You're gonna take a long time to change. 35 years ain't much. Anna, on the other hand, again, very graceful aging. You don't make it into the field as often, but you do still have your ship, and the connection to it is almost as powerful as what you felt on Hagen's ship.
Yay.
And you go there many, many times to just relax and find peace. Would you and Sam have ever tied the knot, or would that just be more of a you're together and you didn't really find that important?
The latter.
The latter, certainly. You were called for some reason to the Admiral of the Corsairs' office, and the both of you, as you trot down there and open the door, you see that Charlotte's not there, which isn't unusual.
You should probably explain why it's Charlotte.
Yeah, the Admiral of the Corsairs, Admiral Hagen, obviously passed at some point, probably about 15 years ago, and Charlotte took over as Admiral, and for the past 15 years has done a admirable job of running the Corsairs. And of course, their friendship to you has only strengthened.
So, obviously, the next step when Charlotte's not in her office is Anna's going to go sit in her office chair and put her feet on the desk.
The Admiral chair. You sit back, you lean back, you put your feet on the desk.
Arms, hands behind head in that pose, just waiting.
You see that Charlotte has gotten sentimental in her older age. You see a lot of trinkets and items decorating the office. One in particular, of course, that whenever you see it kind of stings a bit. It's a pedestal with a colorful hat on it that underneath it says, "In memory of Lucas. Light and laughter were two gifts that he never ran out of." And
someone at some point, maybe Anna, probably in Sharpie put underneath and bullshit.
Wow. Way to honor fallen comrades.
From Anna, it is.
Yeah, it probably is. But you're sitting in the chair, and maybe you're thinking about old times. Kid, don't know what's going through your mind. What is going through your mind?
I wonder what we're having for lunch.
Sure. And after about 15 minutes or so, the door would open. Charlotte would come in looking at a notepad. Charlotte is aged okay. She's got graying hair and some stress lines that used to not be there before. She has been sober for 15 years now. The moment she took over the Admiral job, as much as she complained, as much as she said she hated it, she took it seriously. And she'll have the occasional nightcap with you, Anna, but her drinking days, quote unquote, are done. And she'll look up from the notepad and she'll go, Anna, you're in the Admiral's chair. And she'll look back down at the datapad and start going through stuff.
Yeah, don't I look great in it? I think this suits me. Maybe I should take your job, huh?
Without looking up at the datapad, she just kind of stops and sighs. Yeah. I'm getting really tired of this anyway. And then he taps a button and the datapad goes blank. She tosses it on the desk and she goes, "I retire. Keys are yours."
What?
And walks out the door.
I'm sorry, no, Charlotte? Anna will run after her.
And you start to run after her, and as you're starting to run after her, Lucas bursts into the room.
Hey, boys!
Kid like grabs their chest like Lucas,
How's everyone doing?
you're dead.
What? This better not be
Anna
like a
points at
you kill
Hat.
me now moment.
You know, Kid and Anna both like simultaneously point at the hat and the plaque and the
Shit, I
graffiti.
forgot my hat and plaque.
Lucas grabs his hat
And my
And the plaque.
and the
You
plaque.
wrote on my plaque.
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but you wrote on it.
Lucas still hasn't learned to read. And with that, old friends and the new Admiral of the Corsairs in the Admiral's office will fade the scene to black as we draw our close to the Three Galaxies campaign.
Hey.
Yay!
You
Ugh.
guys, what the fuck?
Surprise!
Oh man, I'm getting a
Surprise.
little.
I told you we had it started. I didn't say we weren't plotting.
Apparently.
I'd like to thank all the viewers for joining us on this many year adventure. I'm getting a little emotional here. It's a strange thing. It's like the holy grail of D&D or of any tabletop game to finish a campaign to its conclusion. And I've gotten the honor of doing it twice now as a DM. And that actually means a lot, to be able to end a campaign with an actual ending. So thank you all for watching, and thank you guys, the players, a lot. I mean, none of this would be possible without you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
And-
not crying, you're crying.
I'm crying.
No!
This isn't a goodbye. This is just the end of one adventure and the start of a new one.
I know, I'm
Mhm.
literally playing with you tomorrow.
I know.
Oh, fuck.
And
We film on a Monday.
and this isn't goodbye to us either, because we are already in the works of our next campaign, a return to Ardenfell. Which should be very interesting. I'm very excited for it. But that is for another day. For tonight, for today, whenever you're watching this, I'd like to thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the Three Galaxies story, and we'll see you guys next time.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye now.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Later.